We spend a third of our waking lives in a highly artificial environment. The modern workplace takes dozens of complete strangers, forces them into close physical proximity, and expects them to interact seamlessly for 8 hours a day. To survive this setup, we rely on the social contract of employment. You show up, you act polite, you avoid conflict, and you get along with your coworkers so everyone can secure their paycheck and go home. But there is a massive vulnerability built into that contract. We are actively conditioned to rationalize bizarre or deeply uncomfortable behavior as simple personality quirks, all in the name of maintaining office harmony. Let's map out exactly how predators exploit this. Look at this diagram. You are the victim node in the center, boxed in by these rigid boundary lines of professional norms. A hostile actor targets the office environment specifically because they know you are physically stuck at your desk and socially discouraged from causing a scene to stop them. We can call this the proximity trap. Dismissing early red flags to avoid an awkward Tuesday morning provides a stalker with the exact opening they need to begin a systematic cycle of escalation. We see the first phase of this cycle, boundary testing, in the case of Alex, an intern working alongside college students at a downtown financial firm. A predator in this phase selects a target by intentionally violating their personal space. Alex weaponized the physical layout of the office. The low cubicle walls allowed him to pop up and loom over one specific female intern, isolating her as his captive audience. Then came the psychological probe. He would lean over the divider and stare, holding a frozen smile, and speak to her in a deliberately performative, creepy voice to gauge exactly how much discomfort she would tolerate without reporting him. The target reacted exactly how our workplace conditioning dictates. She forced an awkward laugh, pretended it was a joke, and tried to lighten the mood. By doing this to avoid a confrontation, she unknowingly validated his fixation. Because his actions went unchecked, the boundary testing rapidly escalated. 6 weeks into the internship, Alex somehow acquired her unlisted home landline. He called her while she was eating dinner, used the exact same creepy voice from the office, and yelled, "The tide's coming in, pull your boat out of the water," before bursting into hysterical laughter and hanging up. Phase 1 operates entirely in the gray area, where a victim confuses targeted, malicious boundary pushing with harmless social awkwardness. If Phase 1 relies on physical proximity, Phase 2 bridges the gap into your personal life. Take the case of Sean, a 24-year-old grocery store employee who fixated on a 17-year-old cashier. Stalkers at this stage exploit standard workplace infrastructure to legitimize their contact. Sean used the mandatory employee group chat to single out his younger coworker and begin messaging her directly under the guise of work. This timeline graph illustrates a tactic called the slow creep. Notice how the interactions begin low and benign, asking about shift coverage and making small talk, before the line spikes aggressively upward as the predator begins extracting details about the victim's personal routines and weekend plans. The true terror of this phase hits when the surveillance becomes undeniable. Sean casually asked her at work if she liked the show Stranger Things, a detail she had never shared with anyone at the store, but had been binge-watching alone in her bedroom. Days later, she woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone tapping heavily against her bedroom window. When the victim finally establishes a firm boundary, the facade shatters. She sent him a text explicitly stating she wasn't interested. Sean instantly dropped the polite coworker act and replied, "Okay, good luck changing your address." Digital infiltration marks the terrifying pivot where a manageable workplace annoyance metastasizes into an omnipresent threat that tracks you to your front door. The final stage is entrapment. This occurs when a predator decides to take physical action, as seen with a new hire named Tom at a small Pennsylvania insurance office. Tom manipulated his coworker's vulnerabilities to isolate his coworker. He waited until a severe storm triggered an early dismissal, volunteering to stay late and ensuring he was alone in a nearly empty building. Then the safety nets systematically disappeared. The building's power flickered and failed. The office landlines went completely dead. And, as police later discovered, the office security cameras had been manually disabled long before the storm knocked out the grid. When the target finally felt uneasy enough to leave, she discovered she was physically trapped. The handle on the rear exit wouldn't move. Someone had taken a heavy chain and padlock and looped it around the doorframe from the inside. She retreated and locked herself inside a dark supply closet. Outside, the active hunt began. Tom stalked the pitch-black hallways, sweeping the beam of a small flashlight under the closet door and calling out her name, taunting her by saying he just wanted to make sure she was safe. She waited in terror until his footsteps faded, crept back into the main hallway, and found her only way out. The thick glass of the front lobby doors had been completely shattered from the inside. She sprinted through the broken frame and out into the freezing rain to survive. Phase 3 is the culmination of unchecked escalation. The predator abandons all pretenses of being a colleague and transforms the office itself into a literal trap. Tom vanished into the storm, abandoning his car and wallet. Sean was fired and hit with a restraining order. Alex walked away into the trees behind the intern's house and was never seen again. The immediate physical danger passed, but the psychological aftermath for these victims was permanent. Even years later, the targets carry severe hypervigilance. They double-check locks, mistrust new environments, and often have no choice but to permanently abandon their jobs to escape the trauma of the location. The unwritten rule that you need to be a team player does absolutely nothing to protect you from a malicious actor. True safety requires you to prioritize your instincts over your desire to be polite. When you force a smile and brush off a coworker's early microaggressions, you give a stalker the exact runway they need to strike.